everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Terms in News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we will be discussing all the terms that have been in news in past few days which are very important from the perspective of your exam. So starting with the first term that we are going to do today is EEZ, that is Exclusive Economic Zone. So when we talk about Exclusive Economic Zone, it basically refers to a maritime zone which starts from the baseline of the coastal state, let's just say the coastline of India, and from there it goes up to 200 nautical miles. Now, this exclusive economic zone and the definition of it is being established by UN clause as per their article 55 to 75. Basically, whenever we are talking about exclusive economic zone, this is a hybrid legal regime which is present. So, you do not get sovereign territory, that means you are not going to operate as an area where you can exercise your laws, but in terms of resource exploitation, scientific research, you can do that. So, it is not your territorial sea, it is not a global high common, it is something in between. How do we understand something in between? When we are talking about exclusive economic zone, this is an area where the country can go for exploration, exploitation, conservation and management of resources, scientific research in terms of jurisdiction in this particular zone, and also environmental protection and artificial islands can be made. But when we are talking about this very exclusive economic zone, it still gives the right to other states that they can pass over, navigation they can do, overflight they can have, submarine cables can be laid down. So, here the sovereignty is not there, but certain sovereign rights have been given. That means this is a resource specific territory or authority that a particular nation can exercise. So, if we are talking about the baseline, let's just say this is the baseline, okay, and up to until 12 nautical miles you have territorial sea. That means this is the sovereign area of the particular country and there is absolute authority. But from when we are talking about baseline to 200 nautical miles, that is where we get to see the exclusive economic zone. Now, when we are talking about exclusive economic zone, it has been in news because there have been multiple pleas to include fisher folk in policy making bodies when we are talking about fishing, especially in exclusive economic zone, and that highlights the importance of EEZ because exclusive economic zone, it gives us a clear understanding of economic sovereignty, because if there are exclusive rights available to 90% of global fish stocks, offshore oil beds that exist, gas beds exist. So, if the exclusive economic zone does not exist, the economic exploitation that is possible here which will not be present. Furthermore, it also helps in terms of energy transition because this is the place where we can have a legal space to set up offshore wind farms, exploit for scientific research, etc. It also helps in environmental protection because the coastal state is responsible for preventing the pollution, conserving the marine biodiversity within its boundary. It is also important from the perspective of national security because the states, the coastal state are responsible for regulating the artificial islands, monitoring the foreign activities and balancing the control and also looking into the freedom of navigation from other states as well. So, a lot of aspects are surrounded around exclusive economic zone and their domain because multiple frictions between countries, be it India or Sri Lanka, be it China and the neighboring countries, their issues arise from exclusive economic zone because wherever the boundaries are not defined, exclusive economic zone boundaries are also very much blurred. In context of India and Pakistan, Sir Creek dispute is also very much around exclusive economic zone, which gives a very directional economic sovereignty and all the significance that we have been talking about. Now, on this note, we will be moving to the next term that we are covering today, that is Kimberley process. So, when we are talking about Kimberley process, basically you have to understand this is a proper scheme where there is certification given. And this certification is given through a global mechanism. That global mechanism is known as Kimberley process. Now, why this global mechanism has been established? This global mechanism has been established to prevent trade in conflict diamonds. Now, what are conflict diamonds? Conflict diamonds are rough diamonds which are usually used to finance armed conflicts which are existing, especially if we are talking about Africa. And this global mechanism has been operational since 2003 to address and prevent the usage of conflict diamonds and the trade around them. And that is why there has been a threefold structure that has been made, which involves government, which involves diamond industry, and also the civil society. Because governments are responsible for regulation and certification, the industry is responsible for supply chain compliance and getting that certification, and civil societies maintain the monitoring and human right impacts, which so as to ensure that diamonds which are part of armed conflicts, that factor is addressed. Now, whenever there is a shipment of rough diamonds, in that scenario, there has to be a proper government validated KP certificate. Otherwise, this will not be acceptable. So, the whole idea of putting a process in hand, so there is a proper voluntary and consensus based regime where peers and the stakeholders are helping to ensure that rough diamonds are not traded and used for specially armed conflict areas. Now, this has been in news because India is going to assume the chairmanship of Kimberley process. Last year, India assumed the vice chairmanship, and in this global mechanism, whenever a country or a state assumes the vice chairmanship, next year they are promoted as per the chairmanship. And India's chairmanship for Kimberley process is very important because it is going to be a very neutral stabilizing factor, especially when we are looking at the global diamond market, which is heavily polarized at given point of time. So, when we are talking about significance of Kimberley process and the chairmanship in this direction, this comes at a very important time because India holds a very important advantage in terms of structure, because India is responsible for cutting and polishing 90% of the world's diamond, which is in and around Surat itself. Other than that, we also get to see that market integrity will be established, and this is the whole idea of Kimberley process itself, that ethical sourcing is very important so as to protect the consumer trust that they have in natural diamonds, and the certification and ethical sourcing, which will also be very helpful in drawing distinctions between natural diamonds and lab grown diamonds. Other than that, when we are talking about the development factor, when India is pushing for reforms so that they do not have to marginalize African artisanal miners in this situation, and that is why this chairmanship can be a starting point where we get to see a lot of changes in the diamond industry where India can be spearheading it. Now, on this note, we will be moving on to the next term that we are going today, that is nitrate. When we are talking about nitrate, it is a chemical compound, but we have to know that it is an inorganic nitrogen compound and it is also highly soluble. Nitrate is an important essential compound which is used for plant growth, but the problem is it is important for plant growth, but if it is mixed in your drinking water, where it is possible because it is highly soluble, it can lead to multiple problems at high concentration. Now, this happens because nitrates have a very weak soil binding and they easily leach into the groundwater as well. So, major anthropogenic sources of such leaching, excessive chemical fertilizers, livestock waste, sewage percolation that we get to see, and there has been a safety limit set for nitrates which are present in water. As per WHO and BIS, 40 milligram per liter as the maximum limit that has been set. Now, this has been in news because the exact opposite has been found. In the recent reports, it has been highlighted that nitrate contaminated drinking water this is intensifying, and we also get to see in multiple samples that have been taken by CGWB annual water quality report that nitrates are present in high quantity in hotspot regions such as Rajasthan and Delhi. So when we are talking about nitrates, as I said, they are important for plant growth, but they can lead to health impacts such as blue baby syndrome, which is basically methemoglobinemia. They can lead up to blue baby syndrome, they can lead up to thyroid disorders, and it also enhances the risk of cancer at a long-term exposure. Other than that, there are direct environmental impacts as well. There is possibility of eutrophication, there is possibility of hypoxic dead zones in lakes and reservoirs which can be created, and it brings a important attention which is required from the policy perspective so as to ensure precision farming, so the excess nitrates do not leach to the water, crop diversification, and most importantly, integrated nutrient management. From the perspective of your exam, you need to link this not to just as a term, but bring in the dimension of agriculture, how it is associated with water, and also the public health as well. On this note, we will be moving to the next term that we are doing today, that is industrial hemp. So when we are talking about industrial hemp, we have to understand it is nothing but a variety of cannabis sativa, or commonly known as marijuana, but the concentration of THC here is less than 0.3%. So here we get to see that industrial hemp is botanically related to cannabis, and here the presence of tetrahydrocannabinol is very much limited. That is why it is usually used as a non-psychoactive, and industrial usage is also present. It is mostly used as a key output in fibers, seeds, biomaterials, and the main challenge in the usage of industrial hemp has been NDPS Act historically did not differentiate the usage of botanically related cannabis in different situations. So recently it has been in news because wild weed which is considered, it can be converted into Himalayan gold, and Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister has talked about that how cultivation of industrial hemp can change and bring in the initiative of green to gold. So whole idea here is that there will be legalization and regulation of hemp cultivation, which is only relatively related botanically to cannabis. The presence of THC is very limited. The program will be starting in pilot districts such as Kullu, Mandi and Chamba, and there will be a proper certification which marks the presence of low THC and high yield seed which will be given to the government. So the whole idea is to bring in a policy which shifts the criminalization in terms of cannabis towards regulation and monetization and industrialization. When we are talking about industrial hemp and understanding significance, you need to know that it has a huge economic potential, especially in this context, because it can easily clock around 2,000 crores annually, and it is a wildlife resistant crop which is very important in the developing areas to address the monkey menace that has been growing, be it Delhi, be it Himachal or the other area. In terms of climate advantage, it has very low water requirement, and as per the climate change transition, the green transition that we are talking about, helping and looking towards climate change policies, this is a futuristic policy because high carbon sequestration also takes place. Furthermore, in terms of construction and innovation, hemp is a low carbon alternative which can be used in place of cement and to complement it. So hemp seems like a solution which will address multiple problems, and it can be a great case study when we are talking about especially green growth. Now on this note, we will be moving to the next term that we are doing today, that is frequency comb. So when we are talking about frequency comb, this is one of the difficult terms that we are going to handle today. But when we are talking about frequency comb, it is basically a compact and simple tool that basically exists to phase, currently and connect the radio frequency domain to the optical domain. There are different types of frequencies. We have radio domain also, we have optical domain also. When we are talking about frequency comb, it is a tool that phases and it connects the radio frequency dome and it also connects it with optical domain. So let's just say, given the example, there is a frequency below 100 gigahertz and there is above 200 terahertz. In this particular situation, the coherent connection that will be made, which will be known as frequency comb. That is why it is known as an optical ruler. It enables the measurement to the precision up to 10 raised to minus 18, and this was the reason that Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded back in 2005. Can you tell me in the comment section to whom this prize was given? Now, when we are talking about frequency comb, it is something where a special kind of laser light is used in terms of spectrum and it brings out a set of frequencies which resembles teeth of comb. Now, when we are talking about frequency comb, it has been recently in news because it has been used for enhanced fiber optic sensing, especially over long distances. And when we are talking about understanding better in terms of frequency comb, let us move and understand the characteristics. Because frequency comb, when we are looking at it, it does not contain only one frequency, it contains multiple frequencies. That means there will be a large number of evenly spaced frequencies and they will be extremely regular. So frequency combs are widely used. They are a high precision tool for measuring and detecting different frequencies of colors of light. And that is why whenever you will see a frequency comb, they will be very evenly distributed and all of them will be in different colors which will be present. Now that was all for today. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much.